These are Hollywood's most dangerous celebrities, and they won't be walking free anytime soon. In fact, many of them will still be locked up in 2040, or even longer. Some were once adored on the red carpet, others ruled the charts or the big screen until the truth caught up with them. What happened next shocked fans, destroyed careers, and landed them behind bars for decades. From twisted scandals to courtroom chaos, these stories are as dark as they are unforgettable. Stick around. Which of these infamous stars shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments. Josh Duggar. Joshua James Duggar, better known as Josh Duggar, rose to fame on the hit reality show 19 Kids and Counting. But his image as a wholesome family man crumbled in the worst way. By 2015, the Washington Post had even listed him among the 15 most disliked people on the internet. Why? Because disturbing revelations came to light. Duggar had been accused of inappropriate behavior towards several underage girls, including members of his own family, when he was just 14. His parents tried to handle the situation privately, enrolling him in a program that involved physical labor and counseling, but eventually the truth spilled into the public eye. As outrage grew, Duggar stepped down from his position at a political advocacy group. Although he was never formally charged for those early incidents, trouble returned years later. In 2021, Duggar was arrested on serious federal charges related to illegal content involving minors. He pleaded not guilty, but if convicted, he faces up to 20 years in prison and a $250,000 fine for each count. By 2040, Duggar may still be serving time, a stark reminder of how far one can fall. Harvey Weinstein. Harvey Weinstein wasn't just a film producer, he was a kingmaker. The man behind Pulp Fiction, Shakespeare in Love, and countless Oscar winners. With 7 Tony Awards and an Academy Award under his belt, he once ruled Hollywood. But by 2017, that empire collapsed in the most explosive downfall the entertainment world had ever seen. Over 80 women came forward with shocking accusations, allegations that shattered his reputation and exposed decades of abuse hidden behind red carpets and closed doors. The fallout was immediate. Weinstein was kicked out of his own company, blacklisted by the Academy, and publicly condemned across the globe. His name, once synonymous with prestige, became a symbol of disgrace. In 2018, Weinstein was arrested. By 2020, he was convicted of 2 felony charges and sentenced to 23 years behind bars. In April 2024, Weinstein's 2020 New York conviction was overturned due to procedural errors, leading to a retrial that began in April 2025. The retrial features testimony from former model Kaya Sokola, who alleges Weinstein assaulted her in 2006 when she was 19. The defense challenged her credibility by referencing a private journal from 2015, which omitted mention of Weinstein in the context of assault. Despite this, Sokola maintained her allegations, stating Weinstein both misled and assaulted her. Awards stripped, honorary titles gone. His honorary doctorate and France's prestigious Legion of Honor were both revoked. Even British Parliament called for his royal title to be erased. His wife, fashion designer Georgina Chapman, walked away, and nearly every corner of Hollywood turned its back on him. Weinstein's luxurious life turned into a locked cell, and unless miracles happen in court, he'll still be behind bars when 2040 rolls around, and probably for the rest of his life. Before we dive into the next shocking name on this list, tell us, what country are you watching from? Be sure to stick to the end to see one of the most dangerous actors from Hollywood, if you thought that story was crazy. Joe Exotic. Once the flamboyant zookeeper of the Greater Wynwood Exotic Animal Park, Joe Exotic, born Joseph Maldonado Passage, captivated the world with his eccentric persona and a self-proclaimed title as the most prolific tiger breeder in the US. His life, a whirlwind of big cats, online reality shows, and political aspirations, took a dark turn when his obsession with rival Carole Baskin led to a criminal downfall. In 2019, Exotic was convicted on multiple charges, including a murder-for-hire plot against Baskin, violations of the Endangered Species Act, and falsifying wildlife records. Originally sentenced to 22 years, a 2022 resentencing reduced his term by just 1 year, leaving him with a 21-year sentence. Despite his incarceration, Exotic's life remains as sensational as ever. In April 2025, he married fellow inmate Jorge Marquez, a 33-year-old from Mexico, at the Federal Medical Center in Fort Worth, Texas. The couple's relationship has been a source of support for Exotic, who continues to battle health issues, including prostate and lung cancer. Exotic has not given up on seeking freedom. He claims to possess new evidence that could overturn his conviction and is actively pursuing a presidential pardon. His efforts include a bold plan to raise $5 million to prevent Marquez's deportation, inspired by a proposed policy allowing non-citizens residency for such a fee. As of now, Joe Exotic remains incarcerated, his larger-than-life saga continuing behind bars. Unless a legal miracle occurs, he is poised to remain in prison well into 2040, a stark contrast to his once glamorous, albeit controversial, life. Michael Jace. Michael Jace, once known for his role as Officer Julian Lowe on the acclaimed TV series The Shield, experienced a dramatic fall from grace that shocked fans and the entertainment industry alike. His portrayal of a dedicated Los Angeles police officer spanned 89 episodes over 7 seasons, earning him recognition in the crime drama genre. However, in May 2014, Jace's real-life actions starkly contrasted his on-screen persona. He called 911 to report that he had fatally shot his wife, April Jace, in their Los Angeles home. The incident occurred in the presence of their 2 young sons, adding a harrowing layer to the tragedy. During the investigation, Jace confessed to the shooting, initially claiming he intended only to wound April by shooting her in the legs. Prosecutors, however, argued that the act was driven by marital discord and financial stress. In May 2016, a jury found Jace guilty of second-degree murder. The following month, he was sentenced to 40 years to life in prison, a term comprising 15 years to life for the murder charge and an additional 25 years to life for the use of a firearm. As of 2025, Jace remains incarcerated at Corcoran State Prison in California. With no successful appeals or parole opportunities reported, he is expected to remain behind bars well into 2040, serving a sentence that reflects the severity of his actions and the profound impact on his family and community. War Machine. Jonathan Paul Koppenhaver, better known by his infamous name War Machine, was once a rising star in the MMA world. But his violent temper and criminal history have ensured he's more remembered for his actions outside the ring than inside it. War Machine's trouble with the law began as far back as 2007, when he was convicted of assaulting a man so severely that the victim was left unconscious. His punishment: 3 years probation and 30 days of community service, a slap on the wrist compared to what was to come. By 2010, his out-of-control behavior caught up with him again, landing him behind bars for 2 years following a felony assault charge. But it's what happened in 2017 that sealed his fate, and why War Machine is unlikely to ever see the light of day again. That year, he brutally attacked his ex-girlfriend and an associate at her home, an incident so horrifying it shocked even his most devoted fans. He was hit with 29 felony counts, including charges for domestic violence, kidnapping and assault, and sentenced to a life term in prison. His only hope for freedom? A parole hearing after 36 years. Tay-K. Tay-K, born Tamor Trayvon McIntyre, was a rising rap star whose breakout hit, The Race, stormed the charts, earning him platinum certification and landing him on the Billboard Hot 100 in 2018. But his meteoric rise was just as quickly overshadowed by his criminal actions, and now he's become a symbol of wasted potential. Tay-K's career was abruptly derailed after he was arrested for aggravated robbery. While on house arrest, he grew impatient with confinement and made a reckless decision that would haunt him forever. He cut off his ankle monitor and escaped to Texas. The next chapters in his story were nothing short of disastrous. In Texas, Tay-K committed 2 more aggravated robberies and was accused of killing a man during a violent home invasion in 2017. This was no longer just a case of reckless behavior. It was murder. His crimes caught up with him quickly. After his arrest, Tay-K faced 55 years in prison for the murder and robberies, and on top of that, a $21,000 fine. The worst part? He won't even be eligible for parole until 2024, and by then he'll have spent over 27 years behind bars. At just 24 years old now, Tay-K could very well be rotting in prison when 2040 arrives, a sad reminder of a promising career lost to violence and poor choices. Young QC. Kane Wilson, better known by his stage name Young QC, wasn't famous for his talent, but for the chilling crime that turned his name into a nightmare. A rapper whose thirst for fame and wealth led him down a dark and twisted path. Wilson's rise to infamy came at the cost of the one person who loved him unconditionally, his mother. Yolanda Holmes, Wilson's late mother, adored him. She spoiled him with everything he desired, from expensive cars to luxury clothes and jewelry, but for Wilson, it was never enough. Driven by greed and an insatiable desire for more, he plotted the unthinkable, contracting a hitman to murder his own mother. The motive, inheriting her savings and life insurance. Wilson stood to gain over $90,000 from his mother's estate, along with an additional $70,000 from her bank accounts. After her death, he used the money to upgrade his lifestyle, buying a new car, designer clothes, and flaunting his newfound wealth. Wilson openly reveled in his riches, showing off stacks of cash on social media and even throwing thousands of dollars into a crowd during a publicity stunt. But the public display of wealth couldn't mask the horror behind his rise to fame. For the horrific crime of murdering his mother for money, Wilson was sentenced to 99 years in prison. He may have gained the wealth he craved, but at the cost of his soul, and now he'll spend the rest of his life behind bars. Allison Mack. Allison Mack, known for her roles in Smallville and Wilfred, was once a beloved actress, but her fame took a dark turn when she became entangled in one of the most notorious cults of the 21st century. NXIVM, originally presented as a self-help group and multi-level marketing company, was founded by Keith Raniere. While it promised personal and professional growth, it turned out to be much more sinister, with accusations of being a pyramid scheme and an exploitative recruitment ring wrapped in one. The cult preyed on vulnerable people, psychologically breaking them down and forcing them into servitude. Mack's involvement was chilling. She wasn't just a member, she was a key player. Allegedly, she became Raniere's partner and mastermind behind the twisted initiation rituals, which included branding women with Raniere's and Mack's initials. The branding, which took place in her home, marked the beginning of their terrifying journey into slavery. But that was just the start. Mack reportedly used blackmail, manipulation, and forced labor to control women, coercing them into doing her bidding and participating in unspeakable activities. She was the one who recruited vulnerable women, luring them into the cult and enslaving them under the guise of empowerment. In 2018, the FBI arrested Mack on charges of trafficking, forced labor, and conspiracy. She pled guilty to racketeering and racketeering conspiracy charges, and though her sentencing is still pending, she could face up to 40 years behind bars. Her fate, like Raniere's, seems sealed. Raniere was sentenced to 120 years in prison for his role in orchestrating the crimes. This remains one of the darkest Hollywood scandals ever to emerge from behind the red carpet's glitz. Will Hayden. Will Hayden, once the star of the reality show Sons of Guns, became a household name for his expertise in firearms. But his fame quickly crumbled in August 2014, when his life took a terrifying turn. Arrested for crimes against nature involving a child, the news shocked fans and the public alike. The scandal didn't end there. As the investigation unfolded, Hayden's own daughter came forward with disturbing allegations against him, adding more fuel to the fire and making the case even more grotesque. The disgrace was enough to cancel Sons of Guns and end Hayden's career overnight. In May 2017, Hayden was sentenced to 2 life sentences plus 40 years, with no chance of parole or sentence reduction. And if that wasn't enough, just 2 months later, in July 2017, a 3rd life sentence was handed down, ensuring he would never walk free again. Do you think Will Hayden deserves to die in prison for what he did? Comment, yes, no mercy, if you think justice was served, or no sentence too harsh if you believe he deserves another chance. Let's see where the world stands. R. Kelly. R. Kelly once ruled the charts, but now his name is forever tainted. In July 2019, his fall from grace became official when federal agents stormed in and arrested him in Chicago. The charges? absolutely devastating. He was accused of manipulating, isolating, and exploiting multiple women, some of them underage, all while using his fame as a shield. Prosecutors painted a chilling picture of a man who ran his life like a criminal enterprise. His trial faced delays due to the pandemic, but justice eventually caught up with him. Kelly was found guilty on multiple counts, including racketeering and engaging in illegal exploitation, and the price, a staggering 30-year prison sentence, with more charges still looming in other jurisdictions. Now locked inside a federal prison, R. Kelly is no longer a superstar. He's inmate number 09627-035, and if his sentence holds, he won't breathe free air again until at least 2049. For a man who once believed he could fly, he's now grounded for good. This case remains one of the most disturbing Hollywood scandals in recent memory. Ryan Grantham. From teen actor to convicted killer, the story of Ryan Grantham is one of the darkest turns Hollywood has ever seen. Known for his role on Riverdale, Grantham stunned the world when he confessed to a crime that felt like fiction. He murdered his own mother. No plot twist, no screenplay, just a brutal reality. In 2020, at just 21 years old, he shot her in the back of the head while she played piano in their home. The most chilling part? After the murder, Grantham filmed her body and calmly admitted what he had done. He later told police he did it to protect her, but the truth pointed to something far more disturbing, a young man spiraling into darkness, consumed by mental illness and violent thoughts. During the trial, it was revealed he had also planned to commit a mass attack, even mapping out a route to assassinate Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Thankfully, that plan never came to life. In 2022, Grantham was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole for 14 years. That means unless the justice system grants him mercy, he'll still be behind bars well into the 2040s. Joe Sun. Joe Sun once played the role of a villain in Austin Powers, but no one could have imagined how much darker his real life was. Behind the corny lines and comedic fights was a man hiding horrific secrets. In 2008, a cold case DNA match exposed Joe Sun as one of the attackers in a brutal 1990 assault involving the kidnapping and torture of a woman on Christmas Eve. The details were beyond disturbing. She was threatened with death, assaulted repeatedly, and left for dead. The crime had gone unsolved for nearly 2 decades until science caught up with him. Sun was convicted in 2011 and sentenced to life in prison, but his story didn't end there. While behind bars, Sun committed another act of violence, this time against his cellmate, who was found beaten to death. The brutality of the attack left investigators stunned, painting a picture of a man with no remorse and no limits. With no chance of parole and additional murder charges hanging over him, Joe Sun will never walk free again. He will rot behind bars for the rest of his life, remembered not for his role in a blockbuster film, but for the darkness he brought into the real world. Suge Knight. Once one of the most powerful men in the music industry, Suge Knight was the man behind Death Row Records, the label that gave rise to legendary artists like Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and Tupac Shakur. Known for his tough guy persona and his ruthless tactics, Knight was feared by many and respected by few. He was a figure who dominated the rap scene and lived the high life, at least on the outside. But behind that throne of power lay a man whose temper and violent tendencies would ultimately bring him down. Knight was no stranger to controversy, and over the years his name became synonymous with violence, threats, and intimidation. But it was 2015 that marked his downfall in the most dramatic way possible. While on the set of the movie Straight Outta Compton, Knight was involved in a hit-and-run incident that left one man dead and another injured. He drove his truck into 2 men after a confrontation, fleeing the scene before being arrested and charged with murder. In 2018, Knight pled guilty to voluntary manslaughter and was sentenced to 28 years in prison. As it stands, he will likely spend the rest of his life behind bars. His legacy of violence, control, and intimidation has been replaced with the harsh reality of a prison sentence that will leave him forgotten by many. By 2040, Suge Knight's name will likely be just a shadow of his former self, with his reign over the rap game reduced to a cautionary tale. The mogul who once ruled the hip-hop world now has nothing left but the walls of his prison cell. Watkins. Ian Watkins, the lead singer of the British rock band Lost Prophets, was once a beloved figure in the music world. The band enjoyed success, with hit albums and a massive fan base, and Watkins was celebrated as one of the charismatic frontmen of his generation. But behind his fame and adoration lay a terrifying secret that would ultimately lead to his downfall. In 2013, Watkins was arrested and charged with some of the most horrific crimes imaginable. He was convicted of multiple counts of abusing minors, including the attempted violation of a child and the exploitation of babies. The details of his actions were so vile and disturbing that they shocked even those who were closest to him. His crimes were not just against children. They involved exploiting vulnerable women to enable his depravity. In 2014, Watkins was sentenced to 35 years in prison, with the possibility of serving at least half of his sentence. His once promising music career was shattered beyond repair, and his name became a symbol of betrayal, exploitation, and unspeakable harm. His story remains one of the darkest chapters in modern music history, and one of the most chilling Hollywood scandals to ever cross into the world of rock. C. Murder. C. Murder, born Corey Miller, was once a prominent figure in the rap world, known for his gritty lyrics and association with No Limit Records. As part of the legendary group TRU, alongside his brothers Master P and Silk the Shocker, C. Murder was a respected voice in the rap community with a fan base that spanned across the country. His music captured the rawness of street life, but little did fans know that his real life would soon become far more chilling. In 2002, C. Murder's life took a deadly turn. After a nightclub altercation, he was accused of shooting and killing 17-year-old Steve Thomas. Despite his claims of innocence, evidence stacked up against him. Witnesses testified that C. Murder was the man who fired the fatal shot, and in 2009, he was convicted of second-degree murder. He was sentenced to life in prison. Over the years, C. Murder's legal team has fought to overturn his conviction, but the legal battles have dragged on with no clear resolution. As of now, C. Murder is still incarcerated, and his future behind bars seems all but certain. Elizabeth Holmes. Once hailed as the next Steve Jobs and the face of innovation in Silicon Valley, Elizabeth Holmes was on top of the world. As the founder of Theranos, a blood testing startup that promised to revolutionize the healthcare industry, she dazzled investors, celebrities, and the media with her vision of a healthcare breakthrough. Her youthful charm, iconic black turtleneck, and bold promises made her the darling of the tech world. But her empire crumbled when it was revealed that Theranos was a massive fraud. The cutting-edge blood testing technology didn't work. It was all smoke and mirrors. Holmes and her company had misled investors, patients, and doctors for years, all while collecting millions of dollars in funding. In 2021, after a lengthy trial, Holmes was found guilty of 4 counts of fraud and conspiracy for deceiving investors and patients. She was sentenced to 11 years in prison, with the possibility of serving time for the damage she caused to so many lives. Holmes's fall from grace was as swift as it was dramatic. The woman who once commanded respect and admiration in boardrooms and tech events is now just another convicted felon. Her life of luxury is gone, replaced by the harsh realities of prison. By 2040, Elizabeth Holmes will likely still be serving her sentence, her name forever tied to one of the biggest scandals in Silicon Valley history. The promise of revolutionizing healthcare now serves as a reminder of how greed and deception can destroy everything, no matter how bright your future may seem. On a scale of 1 to 10, how stunned are you by Elizabeth Holmes's rise and collapse? Drop your number plus one blazing word, for example, 8, deceived, in the comments and fire up the debate. Gary Glitter. He once filled stadiums with screaming fans, known worldwide as Gary Glitter, the glam rock sensation behind the anthemic hit Rock and Roll Part 2. But behind the glitter, fame, and flamboyant stage persona was a man hiding monstrous secrets. Paul Gadd's fall from grace was as public as it was horrifying. His decades-long trail of abuse finally caught up with him in the late 90s when police found disturbing images on his computer. That was just the beginning. Over the years, more victims stepped forward, some barely teenagers at the time of the assaults. In 2015, Gadd was convicted of multiple heinous crimes against children, some of which took place during the height of his fame. The court sentenced him to 16 years behind bars, and the judge called him a manipulative predator who used his fame to exploit the vulnerable. In early 2023, Gadd was briefly released, but freedom didn't last long. He was quickly sent back to prison for violating his release terms and trying to access the same dark content that put him behind bars in the first place. Now in his late 70s, Paul Gadd is not expected to ever leave prison again. Time, justice, and the public have all turned against him. The name Gary Glitter is no longer followed by applause, only disgust and disgrace. Mark Rogowski. Mark Gator Rogowski, once a shining star in the skateboarding world, was a legend in the 1980s, known for his groundbreaking moves and sponsorships with top skate brands. His career was poised for even greater success, but 1991 brought a horrific turn that would forever taint his name. In a shocking and brutal act, Rogowski was convicted of first-degree murder and of violent assault after he killed Jessica Bergston, a woman he had once dated. The crime was chilling, and the once promising skater's career came crashing down. In 1992, he was sentenced to 31 years to life in prison for his crimes. Now serving his sentence at Donovan State Prison in California, Rogowski has had several chances for parole. In November 2024, he faced his third parole hearing in 5 years, only to be denied again. Despite being approved for parole in 2022, the decision was overturned by Governor Gavin Newsom, who cited the need for Rogowski to understand more deeply about his crimes. Rogowski remains incarcerated with his parole eligibility set for 2027. The skateboarding legend who once captivated fans is now just another inmate paying the price for the horrific actions that destroyed a young woman's life and his own, a tragic chapter in the darker side of Hollywood scandals. Mel Hall. Once cheered by thousands as a star outfielder in Major League Baseball, Mel Hall now lives behind bars, disgraced, forgotten, and condemned. Hall played for the Yankees and other teams during the 1980s and early 90s, known for his flamboyant style and larger-than-life personality. But behind the scenes, his dark secrets were festering. Years after his retirement, shocking allegations came to light. Hall had been preying on underage girls, using his fame to manipulate and control them. In 2009, those secrets caught up with him. Hall was convicted on multiple counts related to his abuse of minors, including a 12-year-old girl he had coached. The evidence was overwhelming, the testimonies gut-wrenching. The court handed down a 45-year prison sentence, ensuring that Hall will likely die behind bars. By the time 2040 rolls around, Hall will be in his 80s and still imprisoned. The man who once stole bases now has no escape. His name, once on jerseys, is now etched in court records, a permanent symbol of betrayal, exploitation, and lost legacy. Dave Meggett. Once a rising star in the NFL, Dave Meggett was known for his speed, his electrifying plays, and his role as a dangerous return specialist. He was a key part of the New York Giants' Super Bowl winning team in 1991, and for a time he was living the dream. A career in the limelight, millions in the bank, and a reputation as one of the NFL's most exciting players. But that dream quickly turned into a nightmare when Meggett's violent side was exposed. Over the years, multiple incidents of domestic violence, assault, and harassment piled up, each more chilling than the last. The final straw came in 2010 when he was convicted of forced misconduct and aggravated assault against a woman he had been dating. Sentenced to 30 years in prison, Meggett's life took a dark turn. Once celebrated by fans and teammates, he was now viewed as nothing more than a predator. The man who once dominated the field was now locked away, his name tarnished beyond repair. As of 2025, Meggett is still serving his sentence, and unless something drastic happens, he'll be behind bars for the rest of his life. With his past catching up with him and no chance for redemption in the eyes of the law, Meggett's legacy is forever defined by his criminal acts, not his athletic accomplishments. His downfall stands as one of the most disturbing Hollywood scandals ever to emerge from the world of sports and fame. Beausoleil. Beausoleil was once a rising figure in the world of rock music, playing in the band The Orchestra and even working with Charles Manson's infamous family. But in 1969, Beausoleil became involved in the brutal murder of Gary Hinman, a music teacher and friend of the Manson family. Beausoleil, along with 2 others, tortured and killed Hinman in a chilling act of violence, all under Manson's orders. The murder was so savage that it left the victim's body mutilated, and the crime became one of the cornerstone events of the Manson family murders that shocked the nation. Beausoleil was arrested and convicted of first-degree murder in 1970, and he has spent the majority of his life behind bars since then. Despite his attempts for parole, his involvement in such a high-profile, heinous crime has kept him in prison for decades. In 2021, at the age of 73, Beausoleil was denied parole for the 12th time, continuing his life sentence with the possibility of parole in 2027. While some have argued that he has shown remorse and tried to distance himself from Manson, the horrific nature of his crime and the lasting damage done to his victim's family cannot be ignored. By 2040, it is likely that Bobby Beausoleil will still be rotting in prison, his days of fame as a musician completely overshadowed by the horrific murder he committed. His name, forever linked to the Manson family and the nightmare that unfolded in 1969, will continue to remind us of how quickly fame can be lost and how evil can take root in the most unexpected places. Elizabeth Holmes. Elizabeth Holmes wasn't just a startup founder, she was a media darling, hailed as the next Steve Jobs for claiming she'd revolutionize healthcare with a single drop of blood. Through her company Theranos, Holmes promised her tests could detect deadly diseases like cancer before symptoms even appeared. Investors, government officials, and even the public wanted to believe. The idea was bold, futuristic, and completely false. While Holmes smiled in interviews and headlined magazine covers, insiders were sounding the alarm. One expert put it plainly: "It's unconscionable, it's unethical." Behind the scenes, Theranos was a ticking time bomb. Its technology didn't work, its results were unreliable, and its promises were built on deception. When the truth finally came out, the illusion shattered overnight. Holmes's reputation and her billion-dollar net worth vanished. In 2022, she was found guilty on 4 counts of fraud. By May 2023, she began serving an 11-year sentence. Though some felt she got off easy for not being convicted of defrauding patients directly, others saw it as long overdue justice. What started as a tale of innovation became one of the most shocking Hollywood scandals ever linked to the tech world. A chilling reminder of how ambition without accountability can destroy everything. Gwyneth Paltrow. Gwyneth Paltrow was born into Hollywood royalty, but fame didn't come with public approval. Despite her polished image and carefully curated celebrity interviews, she's long struggled to shake off the Nepo baby label, and truthfully, her own actions haven't helped. In 2013, she earned an infamous title, the most hated celebrity in the world, a spot usually reserved for those with far darker headlines. But Paltrow's downfall came not from scandal, but from tone-deaf arrogance. In 2014, she made waves for claiming that being an actress and a mum was harder than holding down a regular job. That one comment alone was enough to spark a public outcry, and it cemented her image as deeply out of touch. Things got no better in 2022. After winning a lawsuit involving a ski crash, Paltrow turned heads once again. Her message to the losing party? "I wish you well." Those 4 words were seen by many as cold and condescending, even if they were said with a smile. And then there's Goop, her controversial wellness brand that's launched some of the most bizarre products in pop culture history. From questionable health claims to eyebrow-raising items, Goop has become a punchline, and so has Paltrow. In the end, Gwyneth Paltrow didn't need a scandal to ruin her public image. Her words, her products, and her entitlement did all the work for her. Ezra Miller. Before 2020, Ezra Miller was riding high in Hollywood. With major roles in the Fantastic Beasts series and as the Flash in the DC universe, Miller seemed unstoppable, a rising star with fan adoration and industry respect. But that all came crashing down in one shocking moment. In 2020, Miller was caught on video in Iceland, involved in a physical altercation with a woman, a clip that shattered their clean public image and sent shockwaves through fans and the media. Things only got worse. By 2022, Miller's behavior had turned increasingly erratic. They were arrested multiple times in Hawaii and accused of disturbing actions that raised serious concerns. One particularly unsettling case involved a Vermont ranch where reports claimed Miller had placed a mother and her child in a questionable living environment. Court documents revealed that the property owner had known Miller for nearly 2 decades, but even that long-standing friendship wasn't enough to prevent a fallout. Even Miller's mother admitted the situation had deteriorated. With public trust broken and controversy mounting, DC began questioning Miller's future in the franchise. Though the Flash solo film was released in 2023, but since then Miller has vanished from the spotlight, with no acting roles announced to date. Sean Diddy Combs, once a towering figure in music and fashion, now finds himself at the center of one of the most explosive Hollywood scandals in recent memory. In May 2025, Combs faces a federal trial in Manhattan on charges including racketeering and sex trafficking. Prosecutors allege that over 2 decades, he leveraged his fame and business empire to exploit women, orchestrating events where individuals were allegedly coerced into acts that were recorded without their consent. A pivotal moment in the case involves surveillance footage from 2016 showing Combs physically assaulting his then-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, in a hotel hallway. This video, released in 2024, led to public outrage and a subsequent apology from Combs, who described his actions as inexcusable. As the trial progresses, Combs' defense team argues that any misconduct was part of a consensual lifestyle, attempting to portray the relationship with Ventura as mutually aggressive. However, prosecutors are prepared to present testimony from multiple accusers detailing a pattern of coercion and abuse. The jury selection process has been intense, with potential jurors being questioned about their ability to remain impartial, especially after viewing the disturbing footage. Opening statements are scheduled to begin on May 12, 2025. Once celebrated for his contributions to music and fashion, Combs now confronts a potential life sentence, marking a dramatic fall from grace in the annals of celebrity history. Alec and Aria Baldwin. Few celebrity couples have managed to irritate the public quite like Alec and Hilaria Baldwin, a duo whose entitlement has turned them into recurring characters in modern Hollywood scandals. In 2018, Alec made headlines for all the wrong reasons after an argument over a parking spot in New York escalated into a physical confrontation. The man involved, Wojciech Ciskowski, accused Alec of lashing out. Hours later, cameras caught the actor storming out of the NYPD's 6th precinct, scowling in silence as he climbed into a black car. He didn't speak, and he didn't need to. His expression said it all. Alec later pleaded guilty to harassment and was ordered to attend anger management classes. But instead of letting it go, he turned around and sued Ciskowski for defamation. In the lawsuit, Ciskowski called Alec entitled, and whether or not you agree, the damage to Alec's reputation was done. The case quietly wrapped up in 2022. Meanwhile, Hilaria Baldwin ignited her own firestorm. In 2020, internet sleuths accused her of faking a Spanish identity for years, complete with an accent, cultural references, and even moments where she forgot the English word for cucumber. In response, she said, "Love English, I also love Spanish. And when I mix the two, it doesn't make me inauthentic. When I mix the two, that makes me normal." But the backlash was brutal, and not even Alec could save her from it. The couple's attempts at damage control only fueled more criticism. In the court of public opinion, their credibility had already collapsed. Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. When It Ends With Us hit theaters in 2024, fans expected a romantic drama. What they got was a full-blown Hollywood scandal. The film didn't just flop with critics, it exploded behind the scenes, wrecking the reputations of both Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. It all started when an old 2016 interview resurfaced. Lively, while promoting Cafe Society, was caught on camera displaying icy hostility toward journalist Cheryl Flo. The clip went viral, and just as the backlash swelled, things took a darker turn. Allegations soon emerged from the It Ends With Us set. Lively accused Baldoni, who also directed the film, of inappropriate on-set behavior, claims that involved physical contact she described as unwelcome. Baldoni didn't just deny the allegations, he hit back hard, filing a $250 million defamation lawsuit against the New York Times, the outlet that broke the story. But that wasn't all. In a shocking twist, Baldoni also filed a second lawsuit targeting Lively's husband, Ryan Reynolds. Why? For allegedly mocking him through a parody character named Nice Poolool in the upcoming Deadpool and Wolverine, and for reportedly sneaking an entire scene into It Ends With Us without the director's knowledge. As the lawsuits pile up and friendships fall apart, one thing's clear: this is a drama no script could have predicted. Do you think Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni's behind-the-scenes feud ruined the entire film? Comment yes if it changed how you see them, or no if you think it's all blown out of proportion. Let's see where the audience really stands. Steven Seagal. Once a towering figure in 90s action cinema, Steven Seagal's career has crumbled under the weight of his own arrogance. In 2022, the actor raised eyebrows with a bold claim, not about a new project, but about a script he wrote himself. "I tried to write it based on things that have happened to me and friends of mine," he said, calling it incredible. Critics weren't so sure. By the 2000s, Seagal had drifted far from the spotlight, reduced to a steady stream of direct-to-video titles. But behind the scenes, the whispers were louder than the films, tales of a swollen ego, unprofessional behavior, and a long trail of controversy that decimated his standing in the industry. With doors closing fast in Hollywood, Seagal rebranded himself on the international stage, most notably as a vocal supporter of Vladimir Putin. In a stunning twist, he was appointed as Russia's special envoy to the United States in 2018, making headlines once again, but for all the wrong reasons. "I love America, I love Russia," he insisted, framing his new role as a bridge between nations. But for fans who once saw him as an action hero, this strange diplomatic pivot only deepened the disappointment. Paula Deen. Paula Deen once ruled the culinary world, releasing best-selling cookbooks, owning successful restaurants, and lighting up Food Network with her southern charm. But in 2013, her empire crumbled almost overnight. While facing a discrimination lawsuit, Deen was asked whether she had ever used a racial slur. Her blunt reply: "Of course." She even described multiple occasions when she had said it. That single admission triggered a firestorm. Her TV shows were dropped, major endorsements disappeared, and the once beloved chef became a pariah in the industry. But it didn't stop there. In a tense Today Show interview, Deen's entitled attitude made things worse. She claimed she wouldn't have fired herself, and bizarrely questioned whether the slur was even offensive, saying, "I don't know, Matt, I have asked myself that so many times." Her response didn't just damage her brand, it became one of the most unforgettable moments in Hollywood gossip history. Though she's clawed her way back with minor gigs, she's never regained the empire she lost. Armie Hammer. Armie Hammer rocketed to fame after 2017's Call Me By Your Name, scooping up award nods and landing on every next big thing list in town. Yet his meteoric rise soon crashed into one of the most talked-about Hollywood scandals of the decade. In 2021, several women leveled disturbing accusations of personal misconduct, including claims that Hammer fantasized about consuming his partners. His only public pushback came in a tense interview, and "I will say this, there are people that I left who were hurt and who were upset. None of those people were hurt or upset because I pushed any sexual boundaries that they weren't interested in exploring or trying." Public opinion wasn't convinced. Studio doors slammed shut, and after a brief turn in 2022's Death on the Nile, Hammer retreated to the Cayman Islands to sell timeshares, hardly the marquee life he once commanded. By 2024, he resurfaced with the Armie Hammer Time, where he seemed more interested in monologuing about himself than spotlighting his guests. Now eyeing a film comeback, Hammer is poised to step back onto the screen, just not on the pedestal he once enjoyed. Before we dive deeper into the darkest collapse, yes, we're talking about Sean Diddy Combs. Tell us, which country are you watching from? Drop your flag in the comments below and stay with us until the end. The wildest twist is still coming. Mickey Rourke. Once hailed for his haunting performance in The Wrestler, Mickey Rourke has spent years trying to revive a career riddled with misfires and missed chances. But by 2025, the Hollywood veteran made a desperate move, signing up for the UK's Celebrity Big Brother. What was supposed to be a comeback quickly turned into a catastrophe. From the moment he stepped on stage, viewers were stunned. Rourke's behavior during his first live appearance came off as uncomfortably inappropriate toward co-host AJ Odudu. Things got worse when he made rude and offensive remarks to fellow contestant Jojo Siwa, comments that sparked immediate backlash. The tipping point came when he directed aggressive language at housemate Chris Hughes, forcing producers to remove him from the show entirely. Speculation exploded. Some viewers believed Rourke wanted out from the beginning and intentionally sabotaged his stay to get booted. Instead of taking accountability, Rourke reportedly explored legal action against ITV, claiming financial loss. As if that weren't enough, whispers of a behind-the-scenes conflict during the filming of Girl with Bella Thorne only fueled the flames. What was meant to be a redemption arc has now turned into one of the most bizarre collapses in recent Hollywood scandals. Ellen DeGeneres. Ellen DeGeneres rose to daytime royalty the moment The Ellen DeGeneres Show premiered in 2003. Her emotional moments, feel-good giveaways, and upbeat energy made her a household name. But behind the cheerful facade, whispers of a very different reality started brewing. By 2020, the rumors exploded into public view. Several former staffers spoke out, revealing a toxic workplace riddled with intimidation, discrimination, and retaliation, claims that rocked Hollywood. Some employees said they were threatened for taking medical or bereavement leave. Others spoke of disturbing behavior from senior producers. The image of Ellen as the kind-hearted host started to unravel. Though DeGeneres addressed the backlash with an on-air apology, it wasn't enough to stop the exodus of viewers. The show lost over 1 million fans in a matter of months, and by 2022, it officially ended after 19 seasons. But Ellen didn't stop there. In 2024, during a stand-up performance, she quipped that she was kicked out of show business for being mean, a line that only added fuel to her already fragile public image. Steve Whitmire. For decades, Steve Whitmire was the man behind one of the most iconic voices in entertainment, Kermit the Frog. After Jim Henson's passing in 1990, Whitmire took the reins, becoming the new voice of the Muppets. With hit shows and films, it seemed like he had a lifetime gig. But in 2017, that illusion shattered. Whitmire was suddenly fired, replaced by Matt Vogel, and fans were stunned. Behind the scenes, however, the story was darker. According to the Henson family, Whitmire had become notoriously difficult to work with. He allegedly sent disrespectful messages to Muppet staff, refused to collaborate with younger performers, and even declined to train an understudy for public appearances. Producers described years of strained interactions, with one blunt statement saying, "He's not Kermit, he's a performer hired to play Kermit. There's a difference." Whitmire claimed he never received a warning, but his downfall became one of the most unexpected character shifts in Muppet history. And while he's spoken out in a few emotional celebrity interviews, the damage was done, proving that not even puppets can protect you from professional consequences. It's back from Jay Thomas. Badmouthing your co-star isn't just unprofessional, it can end your career. Just ask Jay Thomas. In 1987, he landed a recurring role on Cheers as Eddie LeBec, the quirky hockey player who became Carla's love interest, played by Rhea Perlman. But in 1989, Thomas made a fatal misstep. While hosting his radio show, a caller asked him about working on Cheers. His response, he described the experience as brutal, apparently referring to filming romantic scenes with Perlman. Word quickly got back to the show's producers, and in the tight-knit world of Cheers, that kind of public disrespect didn't fly. Thomas was fired. Not only was his character killed off-screen, but Eddie's exit was laced with insult. He was written out as a secret polygamist who died tragically off-camera. It was a swift and ruthless move that turned a rising star into a cautionary tale. Another name added to the long list of Hollywood scandals where ego got the final word. Jennifer Lopez. Jennifer Lopez built her brand on glitz, talent, and red carpet fashion, but in recent years, the shine has started to fade. In 2024, at the Met Gala, a viral moment sparked criticism when Lopez brushed off a reporter's question about her outfit with a curt reply before striding away. Fans called it dismissive. Critics called it entitled. That was only the beginning. Stories soon resurfaced of Lopez being difficult with airport staff at a private terminal, with insiders claiming she made impossible demands and treated employees poorly. Then came the shocking clip, an old behind-the-scenes video showing Lopez spitting gum into a production assistant's hand. The footage quickly ignited fresh outrage online. To top it off, the highly publicized reunion with Ben Affleck, once celebrated as a fairy tale rekindling, began to crumble, and by the end of 2024, the split was official. Now the same social media platforms that once adored her are flooded with backlash. And despite Lopez's attempts to embrace her identity with messages like, "This is me, love me or leave me," her reputation has taken a hit she may not bound. James Corden made a splash in 2015 when he crossed the pond to host The Late Late Show. With charm, comedy, and viral sketches, he quickly became a household name. But behind the scenes, a different narrative was brewing, and by 2022, whispers turned to headlines when Corden was accused of mistreating staff at the high-end NYC restaurant Balthazar. According to the owner, Corden lashed out at servers, earning himself a public ban. Though he apologized, he later backtracked, reigniting the drama and frustrating the restaurant's owner all over again. Then came more disturbing accounts, like reports of him refusing to assist his wife with their crying baby on a flight, leaving fellow passengers stunned. The lovable late-night persona from his celebrity interviews began to unravel. The image once built on laughter now seemed tinted with arrogance. And after a growing list of PR disasters, The Late Late Show quietly ended in 2023. It was a sharp fall for a man who once had America laughing in the palm of his hand. Roseanne Barr. The return of Roseanne in 2018 was a ratings goldmine. After more than 2 decades off the air, fans flooded back to the beloved sitcom, making its revival an unexpected smash hit. But just as quickly as it rose, the show came crashing down, thanks to one tweet from its star, Roseanne Barr. In a moment of shocking judgment, Barr posted a tweet targeting a former senior advisor to President Obama. The backlash was immediate. Trying to stem the outrage, she released an apology video, but instead of damage control, it only added fuel to the fire. "I thought that was white," she said, a statement that left the public and press stunned. Her excuses kept changing, from blaming sleeping pills to claiming racial confusion, but none of it sounded sincere. The damage was done. ABC acted fast. Roseanne was cancelled. In its place came The Connors, a rebranded version of the show that erased all ties to Barr's name and character. Chevy Chase. Once a towering figure in the comedy world of the 80s, Chevy Chase had it all: fame, fortune, and critical acclaim. But as time passed, his once bright star began to dim. Then came a second chance: Community. The hit series gave Chase a surprising career revival, reintroducing him to a new generation as the quirky, outrageous Pierce Hawthorne. But just when things seemed to be turning around, Chase's ego took over. Behind the scenes, he began clashing with writers and producers over the show's direction and his character's role. In 2012, tensions exploded. According to multiple reports, Chase launched into a furious rant on set, allegedly using offensive language when referring to other characters. It was a meltdown that shocked the cast and crew and signaled the end of the road for him. Not long after, Chase was booted from the series. His character was written off, and his reputation took a major hit. Instead of rebuilding, Chase doubled down, taking jabs at Community in interviews and blaming the show for his downfall. It was a move that only worsened his image in the world of Hollywood gossip. From icon to industry outcast, Chevy Chase is a cautionary tale of how pride, entitlement, and unchecked outbursts can bring even the brightest careers crashing down. Jussie Smollett. Jussie Smollett had the world at his feet in 2015. His breakout role on Empire catapulted him into the spotlight, setting the stage for what looked like a promising Hollywood career. But then came one of the most shocking Hollywood scandals in recent memory. In 2019, Smollett told police he was the target of a hate-fueled street attack, claiming he'd been jumped by men yelling racist and homophobic slurs. "I look down and I see that there's a rope around my neck," he said in an emotional recounting of the alleged incident. Outrage followed. Celebrities, politicians, and fans alike rallied behind him, until the narrative began to unravel. Investigators discovered that Smollett had allegedly paid 2 acquaintances to stage the attack, possibly to raise his public profile. Though he maintained his innocence, in 2022 he was convicted of filing a false police report and sentenced to 150 days in jail. And that will start today, right here, right now, the judge declared in court. Smollett's appeal was denied in 2023, but in a surprising twist, his conviction was reversed the following year, adding yet another layer of confusion to a case that had already stunned the public. Katherine Heigl. Katherine Heigl seemed destined for A-list success. Her role as Izzy Stevens on Grey's Anatomy made her a household name, and her leap to the big screen, with 2007's Knocked Up, only cemented that rise. But just a year later, Heigl sparked outrage. In a 2008 Vanity Fair interview, she labeled the Judd Apatow comedy as sexist, a bold jab at the very film that helped her career soar. Both Apatow and co-star Seth Rogen pushed back, but the damage was done. Then came another shocker. Heigl withdrew herself from Emmy consideration, publicly criticizing Grey's Anatomy by claiming the writing wasn't strong enough to warrant an award. The move stunned fans and reportedly angered the show's producers. By 2010, whispers of Heigl being difficult turned into headlines after she allegedly stopped showing up on set. The network finally let her out of her contract. Her career didn't vanish, but the red-hot momentum cooled fast. And within the world of Hollywood gossip, few falls from grace were this swift or this self-inflicted. Will Smith. Will Smith once embodied the ultimate Hollywood success story. With charm, blockbuster hits, and a spotless reputation, he was a global icon. But everything changed in a matter of seconds at the 94th Academy Awards in 2022. After comedian Chris Rock made an offhand joke about Jada Pinkett Smith, Will's reaction stunned the world. He marched onto the stage and slapped Rock live in front of millions. Just moments later, he accepted the Oscar for Best Actor in a surreal twist that left the industry speechless. Fallout came quickly. Smith resigned from the Academy and was banned from its events for the next 10 years. He apologized publicly, calling the act "not who I want to be." But the damage to his carefully built legacy was undeniable. Meanwhile, Jada's reputation also took a hit. Her revelations about a past relationship and claims that the slap somehow saved their marriage added fuel to public skepticism. What began as a moment of fury became a viral turning point, one that redefined how the world saw both of them. Even now, in emotional celebrity interviews, Smith continues to reflect on that night, a moment that turned triumph into controversy in the blink of an eye. On a scale from 1 to 9, how do you feel about Will Smith's Oscar slap? 1 being totally unacceptable to 9 being he did what had to be done. Comment your number below and tell us why. Let the debate begin. Felicity Huffman and Lori Loughlin. Felicity Huffman and Lori Loughlin were once beloved staples of American television. Huffman shined in Desperate Housewives and earned critical acclaim in Transamerica, while Loughlin was a familiar face from Full House and 90210. Both seemed untouchable until they were caught in the middle of one of the biggest Hollywood gossip firestorms of the decade. In 2019, the explosive Varsity Blues scandal exposed how wealthy parents had manipulated the college admissions system, bribing officials and faking credentials to get their children into elite schools, among those indicted Huffman and Loughlin. "I know this seems crazy," Huffman admitted later, "but it felt like my only option to give my daughter a future." That decision cost her 14 days behind bars. Loughlin, who also faced public outrage, was sentenced to 2 months in prison. Though both actresses have quietly returned to minor roles, the damage was done. Once Hollywood darlings, their reputations now carry a permanent stain. Their careers, a fraction of what they used to be. So there you have it, 21 living warnings that no level of fame can outrun justice. Today, they headline our roll call of Hollywood scandals. Tomorrow, they'll still be topping the prison roster, and by 2040, many will remain shadows behind concrete walls. Which downfall shook you the hardest, and whose story should we dissect next? Drop your thoughts below, smash that subscribe button, and ring the bell so you never miss our next Truth Unmasking deep dive. Until then, stay curious and stay safe.